All right, let's call the meeting of the Board of Public Works to order. Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Here?
Commissioner Bergeron,
Here?
Commissioner Pappas,
Here.
Commissioner Moriarty,
Here.
Commissioner Ackerman,
Present.
And also Alderman Siegel. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Second the motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Is there a motion to approve the last meeting minutes?
I'll move to approve the minutes of the Board of Public Works meeting of August 24th, 2017.
Is there a second?
Second the motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We're now at public comment. Is there any member of the public who would like to speak to the board? It appears not. So the first item is an aldermanic referral.
I'll move to approve a positive recommendation, R-17-128, authorizing the mayor to enter into a cooperative agreement for the household hazardous waste collection within Nashua, New Hampshire region.
Second the motion.
Motion has been made and seconded. I think Ms. Highland is here to discuss this, or if you, why don't you come up just in case there are any? Does anybody have questions or want a more complete explanation from Ms. Highland? Commissioner Pappas.
Just curious, I know we've done this for quite some time, but I always wonder if we end up getting more stuff than the other places. So in other words, does Nashua end up getting more towns' hazardous waste than we dish out to the other towns?
Well, we have usually 5 collections a year. The district, we're part of the district with 11 communities. There are usually 1 or 2 other collections in a different town, like maybe Milford frequently, Pelham recently. And so at our collections in Nashua, we get somewhere between 30 and 40% of the total participation is from Nashua residents. We also look at, first-time users, which we, and we're pretty good on that. We're 30 to 40%, something like that. I don't have the exact number. So it is a cooperative agreement, though, with all these other communities in the district. So everybody contributes to the cost. We get some grants from the state for it. And so in terms of the actual volume from Nashua residents, we're not sure because we just know how many participants there are as opposed to, how many gallons Nashua residents bring in.
So you don't think we're getting stuck with most of the cost?
Well, we pay according to the population, so our dues are based on the population. And I think it's pretty close. I'm not sure the exact amount, but it's pretty close.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Ackerman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just curious, in the note that we've been provided, it says here that this is to help fund the household hazardous waste collection program. What does it actually cost us if this is just a portion thereof?
Well, the actual costs are approximately $26,000 per event. That's what the next season will be. Right now, it's less than that, but it is going up. So the cost is, in addition to what each of the communities pays in according to their population, we do get usually a grant from the state because there are so many communities involved and there's such a large population in the district. So we get that amount of money. It is enough to cover our costs at this time. In the future, we do, with the increased cost, we have to be really careful about the budget.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Bergeron.
I just want to say that I think it's a great program in that in residential residential real estate now, people are asking to have those chemicals removed when people do walkthroughs on properties. Back in the day, they would just disappear, and we know where they would disappear to. They would end up in the landfill, or wherever the people were, getting rid of them. Now we can direct people to the website, or I actually had flyers that I let people know when the hazardous waste
you.
pickups are, and I've
That's
told
good.
other people as well. So it's just a good program, because again,
Thank
the
you.
stuff would disappear overnight, and this way here, you can say to folks, don't worry, it can be disposed of properly. So it's a good thing for the community.
Thank you, I agree.
Anyone else? I think the motion is to recommend approval of the resolution. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now we're on Parks and Recreation.
I'll move to approve the elimination of the current vacant groundskeeper maintenance position at the Parks and Recreation Department and to create a groundsman 1 position.
Second the motion?
Discussion? Maybe Mr. Caggiano should take the hot seat and
Good afternoon.
any questions or discussion? Commissioner Pappas?
First off, I'd like to say that I really appreciate that you try to keep track of this stuff. And, I did notice the saving. I think it's close to 10 grand in the budget, and you're always really good about keeping up on that stuff. Now, as far as budget goes, you're always right on there. But I was curious, for the $10,000 per year, what are the responsibility differences, and can we get a groundsman 1 to do, what can't they do that we can ask the groundskeeper maintenance position?
Sure. Nick Caggiano, Park and Rec Superintendent. The groundskeeper maintenance position could pretty much do just about everything. They can install irrigation, design irrigation, install playgrounds, mostly installation. The groundsman 1 is more of a general maintenance person, mowing, trimming, small repairs. And that creates, ultimately, we're finally getting to the point through retirements that I want to develop, and we're close to this 2-tier system where we have the groundkeeper maintenance people, and then we have the groundsman 1 people who are going to learn the trade and have incentive to inspire to become a groundskeeper maintenance person. So my hope is to save a little money this year and hopefully look toward hopefully adding, using that money to maybe add a person next year.
So your plan would be to have them observe someone, say, put in an irrigation system, or to turn it off in the...
Usually, and for lack of a better term, we'll call it groundskeeper maintenance person, a tradesman, because that's kind of what they are. So when they go out, usually someone will be with them, and you wouldn't send 2 tradesmen to do the job. You would send someone who is learning, or a laborer, for lack of a better term, and that's how they accumulate their training, their time, and that kind of gives them an incentive to inspire.
Okay. So next year, we shouldn't be surprised if we eliminate that position and upgrade it again? Well, you're not sure.
I think we're at the point where we're almost balanced. Of course, whenever we have an opening, I discuss it with both my staff and I discuss it with the director, and we look and we see where that balance is. So every time there's a retirement or a vacancy, we're going to look at that and say, okay, in this business model, what makes the most sense? And this kind of makes a lot of sense and gives me the ability to save a little money as well.
Thank you.
Yep.
Commissioner Ackerman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Superintendent, I was just curious, what's the head count in terms of the maintenance position that we have within the Parks and Rec versus the groundsman one? And how long has the position been vacant?
The position's been vacant since we promoted Mr. Haskell to the foreman's position that was created when Mr. Genest retired. So Bob retired in July. We gave Paul the position. Then we had the discussion on how we're going to do this, and we only meet once a month. So this is my opportunity to take that position, eliminate it, and create the groundsman one position.
Just one last question. Is it your plan then to hire for this new role as soon as possible?
Yes,
after we make-
immediately, yeah.
So year-round position.
So to answer your question, there's 18 ASME employees, and of those 18, 7 are currently groundskeeper maintenance people or tradesmen. There's 2 individuals at Holman Stadium and 1 at Stello, so that's 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 1 at Greeley Park, that's 11. So that means there's 6. There's going to be 6 groundsman ones.
Very good, thank you.
Anything else? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. There's next an informational item.
I'll move to accept and place on file the 2017 Summer Camp Revenue Report.
Second the motion?
Discussion? Questions?
Can we just
Commissioner Bergeron?
talk about the summer program overall? Everything went well?
Sure.
And you've added a couple things?
The summer program went well. If you go to the bottom line, which I kind of go right to the bottom when I get these reports, we made about $38,000, which is great. Now, a portion of that will go to 50% of the recreation coordinator's position is funded out of this account. So it's kind of an incentive to make the camp season do well, because you know you're getting paid out of it. We had some pretty the normal high ones. We only had small losses. The biggest loss was $4. So I think the overall program went well. And just to finish off, we did have a cricket tournament at Holman, and I met a young man, and he is willing to lead a cricket camp next year. So we're very close to our goal.
We're going to call it the Moriarty Cricket Camp. No?
Commissioner Pappas?
I will say that the tennis camp has always been, it's always been terrific. And anyone who ever wants to do the volleyball camp for next year, I suggest they sign up early, because this year I waited till too late. Just a question, I had noticed the vet camp was something that was a really interesting camp, but compared to some of the others, it was pricey. I was curious if we have to, if the Parks and Rec Department has to pay the school district to rent the classrooms.
No.
Okay.
So we don't get charged to rent facilities for basketball or for our camps. And there's this long handshake agreement that we do some winter maintenance at the schools, and they look the other way. The only thing I get charged for is if there's overtime involved for a janitor, then I have to pick that up.
Okay.
So no, it kind of works out fairly well. That certain camps are not run, most of our camp instructors are teachers or coaches at the schools. Certain camps are subcontracted out, and those are the more expensive ones.
It still was, it was
Yeah.
a nice little camp,
Yep.
but yeah. All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Ackerman?
Thank you. Nick, this is great, a wonderful asset to the community and everything like that. Year over year, from 2016 to 17, did you see the participation increase?
It's about the same.
Okay.
We're pretty much at the 12 to 1,400 participant range.
Excellent.
every year.
One other question is, several months ago, we met as a group, and there was a new tool that was being implemented, a software tool to
Yes.
sign up.
Yes,
How did that work out for the organization?
it's working great. I could bring it right up now on my phone, and I could tell you what the most, what people invested in today. I could tell you how many people signed up for Biddy today. It's done really well. We had to make a few report modifications to make sure that the finance people and Mrs. O'Connor were satisfied with how things get tracked. But we made those changes, and it's doing well.
Terrific. Thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes. Item C.
I'll move to accept the gift of the sculpture together from Charles and Mary Goyette to approve the placement of the sculpture at Rotary Common Park.
Second the motion.
Discussion? Commissioner Moriarty.
I was just wondering, is this sculpture finished?
I think so. I can't sit here and say, yes, it's absolutely completed. I'd say it's in the high 90% of completion.
Sorry.
Commissioner Bergeron.
So they commissioned the art, and did they pick the site where they wanted it there, or you just thought that would be a good placement?
I kind of got brought in toward the end of this. So that site was one that's very important to her because it contains so many of the sculptures that we've put over there, and it has the labyrinth. And for Mary and Charlie, it means a lot to them for this site. So that was the site they asked us to consider in their letter to the mayor.
That's a beautiful park, so I love going there. I don't know if you ever have a chance to go there, but it is a nice little gem in the city.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes.
Thank you.
While you were here, I thought the Parks Department did a great job on these special events we've had, the tournament, the cricket tournament.
Cricket tournament.
Where the field was in beautiful shape. And then we had the food truck festival. and
Well attended.
Well attended, that went really well. So, just thanks for all your efforts. Commissioner Bergeron.
Just a couple questions while we have, been seeing a lot in baseball about the foul balls going into the stands. Have we considered possibly doing extra netting at Holman?
Yes, we are.
Okay, because
As a matter of fact,
I've always been concerned about it, and you're seeing it more and more, and
I had my bi-monthly meeting with the director today, and that was one of the things.
Bi-weekly, not bi-monthly. It's bi-weekly, we don't mean,
Bi-week.
you said bi-monthly.
Twice a month, we have a one-on-one, right? I'm sorry. Anyway,
What do you?
yes on the netting, or?
it's been on the agenda for a while of things to discuss. It's a cost issue.
Yeah, no, absolutely it
And
is.
I kind of used a lot of
It's so
those
close
funds for
there.
the scoreboard, so I've kind of letting things build back up. But I think it has to be addressed, because
Yeah.
if anybody saw it on the news, what
Oh,
happened to
yeah,
that
no,
poor girl at
and
Yankee
the kids,
Stadium.
because of the,
No one wants to deal with that. I certainly don't want to have that on my mind. So we're working toward doing something in the spring. It may be in the spring we do first base, and then later in the year we do third. I have to get the cost figured out.
just to follow up on Holman, if I could. We had talked a while back about the coping at Holman. Is that something that,
I've not got to that yet. It's a pretty major project.
yeah, well, that's what we had talked about it.
I'll
No.
probably list that, again, after I talk to the director. That may become a capital request project. The street department's been kind enough to replace the coping little by little, but what we really need is a project where someone's gonna come in, disassemble, reassemble, and we're done with it. 'Cause doing 8 feet every spring when we have time. We're never going to get there.
Commissioner Ackerman.
Thank you. Well, we had the superintendent, right?
Yes.
Okay. Just a quick question. I saw on social media, and maybe you can comment to this, maybe it's on your to-do list. Holman is looking great with the scoreboard. There was some comments recently about Stellos having some issues with the scoreboard. Is
Yeah.
that something on our radar?
It's been repaired as of this morning. Scoreboards, both scoreboards are very old. They're the original ones, so 2001, so they're 16 years old. It's like a television, so, 6 months after you buy a television, it's kind of obsolete. So finding parts for these is very difficult, and unfortunately, it's an exclusive. There's only one company you can use. So we did address that. It's been repaired, and I've talked to Sean Smith over at the school department, and Sean's gonna have that as a capital request for next year to replace those scoreboards. Won't be anywhere near as much as Holman, but they do need to be replaced.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Caggiano. Wastewater Department.
I'll move to approve the user warrants as presented.
Second the motion?
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
I'll move to approve maintenance services for digester cleaning to Denali Water Solutions of Russellville, Arkansas, in the amount of $230,310. Funding will be through Department 169 wastewater fund, account category 81 building improvements.
Second the motion?
Discussion? Commissioner Bergeron.
Just as far as the,
And we have Ms. Osborne here, so thank you.
and just as far as the budgeting goes for this is not like a WRF item. Is this a budgeted item? I know it has to be done. That's not my question. My question is, as far as budgeting, it's a significant amount of money.
Noel Osborne, Plant Operations Supervisor, Wastewater. We did include this in the FY18 budget this year, yes.
Is that something that we would budget for every 10 years, though? I'm looking more like kind of similar to the WRF where it's significant money. Is that something that's built in, or is that just done on an as-needed basis? Because
Yeah.
one was like 6 years, I think, since it's been done, and then the primary and the secondary or whatever was 10 years, or?
Yeah, they don't have a good answer when I ask them that.
Okay.
But no, we don't tuck any money away. We plan, in the 10th year, here's the
budget
money
for
that
it.
we need, and they take care of that, yeah.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ackerman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I did look at this, but I don't know, this firm that's doing the work is quite far away from where we are, correct?
They are.
Arkansas?
There.
Is there like a cost for us to pay for their travel expenses to get here? Is that not in here, or is that part of?
There's always a mobilization charge with a company like this, and that is included in the bid item.
Okay, so that's mobilization. So my follow-up question would be, is there anybody more local that would be capable of doing this in the future, where we don't pay for travel?
We did do an RFP out, and we did do the local companies. It is kind of a specialized thing to do, so there's not a heck of a lot of them in the area. The only company to bid was this one out of Arkansas. I believe they do have a local office. I believe that's the home office, is the base office that's out of Arkansas. But it was a fantastic price for the services that we're looking for, so.
Very good then, thank you.
Noel, was this the company with the West Springfield office?
Yes, I think so.
West Springfield, Mass, yeah,
I believe so, yep.
sorry.
Anyone else? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
I'll move to award the design phase services for the energy recovery generator upgrade project to Waldron Engineering of Raymond, New Hampshire, for the amount of $109,342 Funding will be through Department 169 wastewater fund work activity, energy recovery generator.
Second the motion?
Discussion? Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes, okay, no, so the current generator is offline presently?
Yes.
So we are not making any energy for
We are,
that?
we
Okay.
are not feeding back into the grid at this time, no.
Okay, and the present plan to buy 2 smaller generators, was that through our consultant recommending that?
It's an important piece of equipment. What we've found over the years is when the one generator goes down, we hurt. We don't have the ability to produce the energy and push it back into the grid. You know, if it was a situation like that today where we had 2 redundant generators, and one went down, we would still be feeding our energy back into the grid. So it just makes sense to have that redundancy at a smaller generator that would still, you know, maximize the energy output.
So they both would not be operating at the same time?
Correct.
If one goes down, the other one kicks on?
Correct.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ackerman?
Just to piggyback off of Commissioner Moriarty, if we don't put electricity back into the grid, is that a lost revenue source for the city?
Absolutely. It's a higher energy cost for the wastewater department, so yeah, that's a loss.
Do we have that calculated on a daily basis, or weekly, or monthly? Or?
I don't run those numbers.
It's roughly a loss of about $5,000 to $8,000.
Per what?
That's, yes, per
day?
month, per month.
Per month?
It's about, it's running around 5 or 6 right now with the Waukesha, so down, it's costing the city that much more.
And how long has it been down? I was just curious.
Oh, it's been up and down quite a bit this year. We've had a lot of problems. This is a generator we've had years of problems with. It's kind of the BOMAG of wastewater. And so it really needs to be replaced. And it wouldn't have been my choice had I chosen a generator. So we're going to make a wiser decision and something that'll actually run efficiently and hopefully all the time.
So time is
It's been
of
down
the,
a lot this year.
time is of the essence.
Time is of the essence, correct.
And when's the go-live date if we pull the trigger? Do we
Oh,
know?
I can't answer that at this point. There's got to be a study done to figure out exactly what we need to do, and then we need to put that out to bid, and so it's going to take us some time to get this done.
Gotcha.
Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes, thank you. No, it's just the generators have not been purchased at this point.
Correct.
No.
Because we're still in the design phase, right?
Correct.
Thank you.
Alderman Siegel?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So has this lost revenue been accounted for in the budgeting process? I mean, if we know that this thing's been up and down for a while, or are we going to see a significant shortfall?
I'm sorry, Lisa.
No, we won't, you won't see a significant, it'll just be absorbed in the wastewater fund,
Okay.
that's all.
Anyone else? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes. Item D.
I'll move to approve change order 6 to Headworks upgrades to the contract of T-Buck Construction, Inc. in the amount of $26,759.85. Funding will be through Department 169 wastewater fund SRF loan activity Headworks upgrades.
Second the motion?
Discussion? Commissioner Moriarty?
Just a question, indirectly related, because we're applying for state funds. And it seems like that happens a lot where we apply, but I don't think this board ever finds out if we ever get the grant money. I mean, it would be nice if we get notified, okay, the grant got accepted and this much money. Just as a point, I see this a lot, that we apply for the grants, but then we never know what, if we've been, accepted or denied.
Well, we can have why don't I bring an accounting of that next meeting, so we can tell you exactly.
Right, thank you.
Sure.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item E.
I'll move to approve the purchase of monitoring instrumentation for the wet weather facility from Hatch Company of Loveland, Colorado, in the amount of $25,631.95. Funding will be through Department 169 wastewater fund WRF activity category 71 equipment.
Second the motion?
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes. Thank you very much. Engineering Department.
I'll make a motion to approve the residential and commercial wastewater service permit fees as submitted.
Second?
Discussion? Commissioner Moriarty.
Just a question on those, Director or Chief Engineer Dukran. If it's a new permit, there's a fee, but if it's a repair or a reconnection, we do not, there is no fee? I was just wondering why,
Yeah.
because there's time involved and there's manpower, and why is there not a fee? But you can explain.
So there are various ways we apply the fees. On new permits, there is a fee for a new permit.
Right.
And if there's a repair, we collect a fee because if it's one or two family residents, the ordinance provides for helping out that property owner. So for $600 paid to us, we will do the repair. So if it's within the means that we have, like the street department can do it, if it's shallow enough, then we'll do it. If it's beyond their capabilities, we'll hire out it as a contract. So you'll see a fee for the repair of a single or two-family residence sewer connection.
Well, that is not in your spreadsheet that you give to us. You give us the fees for the permits, and then there is 0 fees for reconnections and repairs.
Right. Now, sometimes there's a zero fee, and that's if the homeowner elects to do it themselves, then you'll see a zero fee there. If there's an update on the permit for just a change of flow, and there's no fees associated with, because the flow is still within the bracket, you'll see a zero fee there as well. So we have a range of different applications for the fee schedule. But the fees were set by ordinance years ago. And it's something that we carefully do. Every time it comes in, someone goes through and evaluates each situation. If you'd like, at the next meeting, I can actually go through and explain exactly what fees for what. I can do that.
If there's an interest with the other board members, I mean, I would love it, but I don't know if there's enough interest.
Right. I'll also tell you, because now I have the floor, that the $600 is certainly way too low. It's a fee that's dated in the 80s, and when we have to do the work, it's beyond $600 to do that repair to the connection. And we do have a good basis for saying that, because so the homeowner pays $600, and then sometimes we have to hire a contractor, and it could be as much as $5,000–6,000 to do that repair.
I think that's good information for the board to know.
Absolutely.
Exactly, thank you.
Sure.
It has been the same for a long, long time. The
It
same
has.
$600.
That's correct.
Costs have probably doubled or tripled since that time.
Probably more, yeah.
Any other comments or questions? Commissioner Ackerman.
Yeah, thank you. I think that was very illuminating. Thank you very much. Are there any other fees that we have within the engineering department that we might want to look at beyond these two that might be outdated?
We do issue other permits related to the street excavation, encumbrances and so on. we don't collect any fees for doing so. Many communities do. And I think something we talked about the last time, the street cut situation. City of Manchester and City of Concord, they have a fee schedule. They collect the fees, and those fees go into a paving program. And that's something that we may want to look into.
We are reviewing that now. I think you'll recall, Steve, that we had talked about Andy, you and I getting together to
Yeah.
discuss that. And we've collected the information from the other communities, and we'll likely have a proposal soon for you on that.
Okay. Commissioner Pappas.
I think that was the thing that was kind of tied up in the courts, that there was, whether, and I think that the cities prevailed.
They did. You're correct.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item B.
I'll make a motion to approve the use of SW quadrant funds in the amount not to exceed 28,000 and the use of Northeast Boulevard Sidewalk Trust Funds in the amount not to exceed $12,235 as the city's contribution towards the construction by White Family Ventures of 1,200 linear feet of sidewalk on Northeastern Boulevard between Pittsburgh Avenue and Main Dunstable Road. Funding will be through Department 160 Admin and Engineering Fund Trust, account category 54, Property Services, Construction Services.
Second the motion.
Discussion? Commissioner Ackerman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just perhaps a little bit of education. What's the difference between a quadrant fund and a trust fund? And is this a budgeted line item, or is this something we've already allocated somewhere else in the community?
So, so both the SW in this case stands for Southwest. For the we have 4 quadrant funds, and those are actually trust funds as well. The funds in those accounts were collected from developers over the years, and essentially it's when a developer has to do a sidewalk, but there's an option not to do the sidewalk. They pay into the fund itself, and the whole idea is if the developer is doing the sidewalk, it will be in front of their property, and that may not be necessary. You prefer do the sidewalk on a busy street within that quadrant. So those are the quadrant funds. This particular Northeast Boulevard Sidewalk Trust Fund, that was a special fund that the company Teradyne had planned a development along Northeast Boulevard, and they had given money towards a sidewalk on that street. So both are developer contributions.
Gotcha. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Commissioner Bergeron.
When the money is paid into the fund from developers, who determines whether they're going to build the sidewalk in front of that property or not? Is that engineering, or is that part of a long-range plan?
So just to go back to this, the quadrant funds are collected and are not tied to a particular property. So you can build a sidewalk anywhere within the quadrant. How we have used the funds in the past is that we look at our sidewalk priorities, sidewalk needs, and the department does. And if it's decided we will use the fund to pay for that sidewalk, then we come to the board for approval. But the question is, who decides where to build a sidewalk? That's a division decision.
Well, I think the question was, who decides when a developer comes forward with a project, whether they should build a sidewalk in front of their property or contribute money?
pay
And I
into-
think that's part of the planning board process.
Okay, all right, now I get it. Right, it goes to the planning board, and so if you have, say, a 2-lot subdivision on a street, and the land use ordinance requires that you put a sidewalk in front of those 2 lots, the planning board, planning staff, everyone comes together and they decide that this will be a sidewalk to nowhere. They'll probably never get the entire street built. And sometimes you determine the street is not a busy street. A sidewalk is pretty useless. People will walk in the street and be just as safe. And so the decision can be made at that time, whether to take money instead into the fund.
Commissioner Bergeron.
So if you wanted to have, so northwest quadrant would have its own money. So how would somebody determine, I mean, I'd look at like Broad Street, which has been talked about since as long as I've lived there, 30 years, about continuing the sidewalk up, and now that we have the high school there and what have you, who would determine if we ever wanted to carry that sidewalk up or eliminate the sidewalk? Because the problem in some of the areas, and this is more of a up here schedule, just a discussion about it, that, you know, you have a sidewalk by Coliseum Ave and that's severely deteriorated. So at some point, it's either have a sidewalk or no sidewalk, I guess.
It will be the division, it will be the mayor's office. If we determine that there's a need for it and we have the funds to build it, whether it's paid out of the quadrant or a capital improvements account, it will be us.
Do we have, sorry.
just
Sometimes
to be
residents
for
will also
clarity,
request.
The city is divided into these quadrants because the law behind this suggests that there should be some connection between the need created by the development and therefore some proximity between the development and where the funds are ultimately spent. So in order to kind of satisfy that legal criteria, we're not, you know, collecting funds from a developer in the south end and spending them else, you know, on Broad Street or
Right.
whatever. So we have these quadrant funds, and I think there are 4, correct? So funds from a certain area of the city are contributed to one fund, one quadrant, funds from another area of the city to another. And that's why we have funds in more funds in one quadrant than we might in another. Well, I'm sure there's a northwest quadrant fund, but I'm not sure how much money is in it.
The southwest
that
is,
out, though.
southwest is pretty, has the most all the time. Northwest, never have enough to build City Broad Street sidewalk, but we do have
So
funds.
More of a
Commissioner
legal
Bergeron.
question. So you couldn't transfer funds from one to another. I guess I'm looking at that somewhere where there might be other extra development would have a lot of money in their sidewalk fund and others would not.
That's correct, but this is more of a recent in recent years, whatever that means. So most of the funds are in the southwest quadrant because that's where most of the development has
Development is,
occurred
right.
in the last 25 years, 20 years. And like Broad Street, where Commissioner Bergeron lives, Ward 1 and Quadrant Northwest, mostly built out, so we probably have very little money since this procedure was developed, so we probably have very little money there at all.
Correct.
Commissioner Bergeron.
Sorry, I don't mean to, but just for my own. So is there like a map of where all the sidewalks are in the city or a Google map view where Alderman Lopez has talked many times about different areas, and I can't give any specifics about like a sidewalk ends and then now what, you know, about where we would strategically place sidewalks. That would obviously make sense to have a sidewalk. I know they want sidewalks everywhere and bike lanes, but it's not obviously always cost-effective that we can do that.
Right.
But certainly there may be some areas.
We
And
have a
like the
map.
Broad Street's just like one example.
Yes.
I'm sure everybody's ward and neighborhood has somewhere where they say, geez, if they had another 75 feet of sidewalk, it would make a big difference for children walking or.
Yeah, we have maps that we have kept along the way. We haven't really updated those maps. I just take you back, maybe you weren't on the board then. We used to have an annual sidewalk program where we would take in all the residents' complaints and requests and plot those, evaluate those needs, put them in priorities. We'd have the school department also sending in their requests because, you know, for the walkers and so on. And so we'll try to meet those every year. Along the way, the BPW talked about we shouldn't be building more sidewalks if we can't keep up with the maintenance. So we kind of like went back on, well, let us improve our maintenance. Let us spend money sweeping, maintaining, repairing, and so on. And that's why you haven't seen an emphasis on a sort of a comprehensive sidewalk program. But we have talked between Public Works and Community Development downstairs, we've talked about trying to figure out where those essential connections are and improving bike lanes, bike paths, and pedestrian amenities as well. Well, we're not there yet, but there's been a lot of talk about that.
Just my final one, if I could, just that I think sometimes sidewalks are placed, and this is my own opinion, sidewalks are placed in areas that there probably shouldn't be a sidewalk, because it's almost encouraging walking in areas that wouldn't need it, I guess is my point. Like there was a development, a residential facility placed on Amherst Street, and people wanted to continue the sidewalk, and I was like, well, people really shouldn't be walking there. There's a sidewalk to nowhere, basically. That's all, so. I won't be around for it. I'll be just coming to the meetings and coming up. Back when I was on the board.
Commissioner Ackerman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. DeCrane, I was just curious, at what time during the process of a site development is it determined what's going to be allocated by a developer into this type of fund?
It's the application process could be several weeks, sometimes months, and I think earlier on there's an evaluation during the technical review process involving planning staff, engineering staff, other staff. Maybe people from economic development might be there.
Okay, so safe to say it's before the first shovel is done on a particular piece of property, correct?
Definitely.
So with that said, and this is an interesting topic for me, the area of Nashua along, that I kind of know as Canal Street, but I don't know if it goes Canal all the way to Hudson Bridge or not, on the left-hand side where the Renaissance building is being put into place.
It becomes Bridge Street.
Bridge Street, thank you. That's a huge development with a lot of cars, a lot of vehicles. Is there a large fund of money available for this type of infrastructure improvement in that particular area, whether it be wider roads or better sidewalks, lighting, things to that nature?
So if the question is, do we have funds in that quadrant?
Yes.
I think that quadrant is pretty, that'll be the northeast quadrant. I think that's, doesn't have enough funds to cover such a long sidewalk. I don't know, I can't tell you exactly what pieces are missing there, but I'm gonna guess quite a bit is missing to make a full connection. That'll be a major project, requiring major funds.
And usually, for a project like that would be tremendous obstacles, so sometimes it's almost impossible to add sidewalk in some of these areas.
And that's fine. I guess my question is this: we've got several dozen, if not several hundred, new pieces of apartments, condos, single homes, whatever that is, the development is. Are there plans to improve the roads and the infrastructure to accommodate that? Because quite frankly, if anybody goes over the Hudson Bridge anytime between 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock, it's pandemonium with traffic. Has that been thought about in terms of improving the roads in that general area as we have more?
There is the state's project that we're proceeding with. Why don't you explain that?
Yeah.
So the city has a project funded by the state using a lot of federal funds to improve the intersection where Bridge Street and East Hollis Street come together. And so that's in its early stages of development. And when that's done, I'm sure there'll be pedestrian amenities like crosswalks and sidewalks included in the project. We've talked about the different options for the intersection improvement, roundabout, or a different kind of signal, but that's being studied right now. And to complete the corridor, we do have an application in with the state, and it's there, it's still alive, but it's a long-term funded. No one can give you a date to improve the entire corridor. bridge and canal. And when you get those funds and you implement that project, we expect that complete sidewalks will be done. But as far as the timing of it, it's anybody's guess right now.
I feel,
The project that's in front of the Renaissance, now remember the Renaissance, it was done pursuant to a development agreement that was entered with the city like 10 years ago or something, but there's the money that has been assigned by the state to the area near the Renaissance is considerable, like $4 million, I think.
3.6.
$3.6 million. So that is in design, and they're looking at the traffic situation, which is very difficult, and trying to develop the best approach towards trying to alleviate the traffic. And that when that is designed, then the engineering department, the board, the Public Works will propose that we proceed with the project using the federal funds according to the design that best, can accomplish the most.
thank you, I appreciate that, because I think my assumption is that it's a long-term process we've identified, but it might not necessarily be a process that gets done before the Renaissance development itself is ready to go be occupied. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes, that's a fair assessment.
Okay.
And when the project is done, I mean, it's difficult. We may make some improvement, but it's not like it will eliminate all congestion. I mean, that's the message that's coming in through loud and clear through a series of sort of analysis by various traffic consultants. Commissioner Pappas.
Did the Renaissance folks have to pay into the quadrant funds? Because they were supposed to help with a lot, and they really came up short.
Yeah, I doubt that that money went into the quadrant.
Just to clarify, there's nothing that allows us to force contributions. We ask for contributions, but developers can say no. So there's nothing that allows us to receive contributions.
Though an ordinance probably would be needed.
Correct. Yes.
In that Renaissance situation, at the time, and this goes back, I'm going to say 10 years or around in that vicinity.
It's a little less than that, I think.
8 or 10, something,
Yeah.
Fairly long period of time, before Alderman Siegel or I was involved with city government. But the city at that point was trying to encourage the development. So I think that nothing regarding sidewalks was really required. They are making some contribution towards the light that will be at the intersection of D and Bridge, right?
Street, yeah.
I think they're contributing towards that, and that's kind of a part of the ultimate solution, but will be done in the short term. There'll be a traffic light there, which will help. But this other larger project, state-funded, will not be done before the Renaissance is occupied. The traffic light will be, is my recollection. Any other comments, questions?
Just to circle,
Commissioner
just to
Bergeron.
circle back I got on a roll with this. This is a great project, that's all, back to this. This is exactly, public-private partnership for the, 300 feet of sidewalk is a great thing, so that's, we kind of got off a little bit, but this is a great thing.
It's more like 1,200 feet sidewalk, yeah.
Yes, 1,200, I'm
Right.
sorry, yes.
I drove it today, and there's intermittent
Well, the
sidewalk.
city's portion, the 40,000 for the city is 300 feet, and the 1,200 feet, so, yes.
I drove it, I went down there and looked today, and there's sort of, this goes all the way from Walden Woods, which is probably, 1,200 feet down. And there's intermittent sidewalk between that site and Main Dunstable Road. It's kind of there and not there. So this will, for those people, anybody who wants to walk that stretch, this will be a big improvement. Anything else? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes. Item C.
I'll make a motion to approve change order number 3 to the paving contract for FY16 paving program to Brock Industries, Inc. of Drake, Mass. In the amount of $48,000, funded through Department 160 Admin Engineering Fund Bond, Activity Description, Multi-Years Paving, Department 169 Wastewater Fund, Wastewater Activity Description, Sewer Structures.
Second the motion?
Discussion?
Can I,
Mr.
may I
Duplan?
ask the director, didn't we have an updated motion on this one? Oh, so it's, okay, maybe I'm not keeping up. I thought this motion was changed to add both view, to have one change order.
You think the motion should be different than it's set forth here?
Yeah, it's $137,000.
I haven't seen that.
That's what we have.
You have D, you have letter D as well, C and D, but there's something else?
D is for the Brock's
That's for the-
contract.
Yeah.
C,
No, sorry, not Brock's, but
excuse me, Mr.
seal
Mayor, in the
coating.
agenda, C is different than what's on C in the attachment down here.
Correct, you're right.
That's what it is, yeah, right. So it does say 137.
So if you look to the packet, the memorandum is different
Yeah,
than is indicated on the agenda.
Good catch.
So I mean,
It's the 137.
okay, so we need to go by what's in your packet, in the discussion and description, not the agenda.
Okay, so we're gonna amend we're
So
gonna
we'll
amend the motion.
Amend the motion in
letter
the
C,
agenda,
to the 137 that's in our packet?
correct.
So
So-
do we need to do anything to? or
Now,
just
so
amend
the motion is amended from 48,000 to $137,945. Correct? Correct?
Yes, that's correct.
That's the motion, and, yeah, that's the motion in the packet anyways.
So is there any discussion on the
So
amended motion?
your backup is correct, it's just the motion isn't correct in the agenda.
Any discussion on the amended motion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item D.
Make a motion to approve change order number 1 to the preservation contract for the FY17 pavement preservation maintenance program to Seal Coating, Inc. of Braintree, Mass. In the amount of $150,000, funding through Department 160 Admin Engineering Fund, General Activity Description, Multi-Years Paving.
Second the motion?
Any discussion?
Yes.
Commissioner Moriarty.
Questions regarding funding. I'm just wondering why it was going through general and not through the paving bond. As it's written here.
Yes, this will be money left over from previous paving accounts.
From the regular paving program that we had, that's money from that. Before the $7.5 million bond was approved, we had paving dollars that we were using, so that's from that.
Thank you.
Money.
Anything else? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Under letter E, I'll make a motion to accept and place on file the update on the 2017 paving program.
Second the motion?
Any discussion or questions?
Tons of streets are getting paved, huh? Holy smokes,
Lot left to do.
yeah. Good job, everybody, right? We're paving some streets now.
13 miles are on these schedules.
Yeah, oh, no, this is incredible. Like, when you look at this list, I thought I printed it twice. And I didn't have that problem, and I didn't have that problem in past years where you printed it and you'd start looking and you go, is there any streets on this list? I mean, this thing, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's awesome. And the residents, you're hearing a lot of the residents are happy, their streets are getting paved.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes.
Under letter F, I'll make a motion to approve the contract with Electric Light in the amount of $17,880 for the installation video vehicle detection at the intersection of All Street and Main Street. Funding will be through Department 161 Streets Fund, General Activity, Street Infrastructure Improvements, $4,174, in Department 161 Streets Fund, Paving Trust Account Category 81, Infrastructure Improvements, $13,706.
Second the motion.
Discussion? Commissioner Ackerman.
Thank you. In the packet of information that was provided, it indicated that the milling operation actually cut the wires. Who did the milling operation? Is there any recourse against that organization, or is that just a common occurrence?
Oh, no, that's deliberate. You can't mill without cutting the loops.
Okay,
You have to cut the loops, yes.
thank you.
I wanted to phrase it differently, but because I anticipated that question.
Any, Commissioner Moriarty?
Right, along that line, it was stated that Pennachuck Water would be contributing as a result, but it didn't say what amount they would be contributing. Do we know what the amount?
Yes, actually, it will be around $13,000. 13,
13?
yes. Because they cut, I think, 7 of the 9 loops in their operations.
So of the 17.8, they're paying 13. That's
Yes.
very good.
Anyone else?
Uh,
Commissioner Bergeron.
The total is 17,000,
Yeah, 17.
and the
17,000.
Pennachuck's paying 13
Correct.
of the 17? Is this category, account category 81, infrastructure improvements, that's from Pennachuck, basically?
How it would work, Pennachuck will give a check, which will go into that account.
I go in that account.
Yes.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Dukran. Street Department.
Under the Street Department, I will make a motion under letter A to approve the purchase of winter road salt from Granite State Minerals of Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and Easton Minerals, Inc. of Chelsea, Mass. for a total amount of $465,000. The budgeted amount will be divided evenly between the two vendors. Funding will be through Department 161 Streets Fund, General Account Classification 61 Supplies and Materials.
Second the motion.
Discussion? Questions? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item B.
Under item B, I'll make a motion to abolish one sign maintenance position.
Second the motion.
Discussion? Commissioner Bergeron.
Did we talk about this when we did the budget, that this sign position was going
That
to be
is
eliminated?
correct. John Iber, Street Department
I'm sorry.
Superintendent. Yes, we did during budget review.
You'd
This
think
was
I'd know
approved.
how this works after 4 years.
Sure.
But I don't. So that is the position we had
That is the
previously
position.
spoke about.
That's correct.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Administration.
Under letter A, I'll make a motion to accept the resignation of Charles Anderson, Public Relations Administrator, effective September 11th, 2017.
Second.
Discussion? Commissioner Bergeron.
Have we started the search yet for the new position?
We have, it is posted externally. It was recently posted, though, I think, early this week, Monday or Tuesday, so we are collecting resumes. Hopefully, we'll find a good candidate. I think we have a couple of good leads for people, so we'll see what happens.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we have an informational item, which is the director's report, so I will give it to Ms. Photo.
Okay, this first is the Henry Burke pedestrian bridge. You'll probably recall it, the bridge was red listed. There was deterioration of concrete below the deck of the bridge. Also, the concrete curbing along the bridge deck was deteriorating and chipping off and actually falling onto traffic below. So it was fairly serious. That has been repaired, and the work was completed the day before school opened, so just in the nick of time. This is a picture of Ledge Street School curbing replacement and Ledge Street paving. If any of you have been to Ledge Street School, you'll see that it looks very good. Some pouring of sidewalk at Ledge Street. Paving on McDonald Street. This is some patching that we did on McKenna Drive prior to paving. We finally had our ribbon cutting for the skate park on September 11th. It's been a very busy park since that time. It hasn't been completely without issues, but I think we're working through them, and overall, it was a very successful opening.
Except that Alderman Siegel, one thing we didn't do is Alderman Siegel had promised to do the opening
Second
with
motion?
his suit on. And he didn't do that.
I did promise that, but I don't think that that would work out real well. So I took one look at that, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe not.
All right, well, I was just curious.
Yeah. We don't want to see Alderman Siegel get hurt. This is a picture of Mine Falls parking lot paving. We're working on the Charlotte Ave soccer fields. It's moving along pretty well. We've hit a couple of snags. We had to put a separate meter in for the irrigation. We thought we'd be able to connect to the school. The fire marshal wouldn't allow us to do that. So it set us back a little bit, but we're still making pretty good progress. So we expect that the fields will be completed this fall. Just another picture of the construction. A Park Street drain pipe repair that we did. A sidewalk replacement project on Raymond Street. We did this project because it wasn't safe. A resident tripped and was injured. So that's how we look at a lot of these sidewalks, and we really, the sidewalks there were a lot of sidewalks that need to be repaired, but we really choose the ones that we feel like are a real safety issue, so this was one of them.
What block is that, do you recall?
I don't recall, I don't know,
well,
Superintendent, do you
I
remember?
tried
Doesn't Commissioner Moriarty live on, or don't you live on
Yeah,
Raymond?
it's diagonal across from my house.
Oh, it is?
It's a corner of Raymond and Cortland.
Looks good, though.
It
Now
does
I can walk over to see Commissioner Moriarty without
look- Without tripping.
tripping, yes.
That's important, too. We repaired a bollard and some brick on Temple Street. We did sidewalk and curb replacement on the corner of Block and Lowell. The mayor discussed the Cricket Festival earlier. It was successful. I wasn't there, but I heard it was a lot of fun, and several hundred fans attended. And they're really hoping to grow the event for next year. So it was off to a good start. Representative Latha Manjaputi was very involved in that and worked really hard to help put that on, so she should be recognized as well. The Nashua Art Festival was on September 9th. The city put that on in conjunction with Positive Street Art, and they held their third annual art festival at the Water Street Park. The senior walking program in Mine Falls Park. The walking group meets on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 a.m. If anybody's interested in participating in that.
We're too young for that.
Too young for that, okay. Wheels and Wings on September 16th was hugely successful. We normally have about 2,500 people. We had 4,500 people attend, so we had people coming from all over the place, you know, and from other communities, so that was really successful this year. The Apache helicopter was a big hit, you can see. The Pal and Elks youth football program is in full swing at Stellos. They play on Sundays. I'm watching that cheerleader jump up in the air, and I'm thinking, I'm glad I'm not her, trying to come back down. That's a long ways up. The next household hazardous waste collection is Saturday, October 7th from 8 to noon, and that is at the street garage. The landfill will be closed on Monday, October 9th, in its observance of Columbus Day, so trash collection will be delayed one day that week. Soft yard waste cleanup is in full swing.
I was just gonna say, I just.
We are filling by
That
the
was my
setback
house.
wall.
That was
now.
my house.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you kidding? That's funny.
That's your neighbor, barrels.
Are those your barrels?
Those are our barrels, yeah.
That's funny. I did not know that.
I'll leave the whole thing
See,
alone.
we're highlighting commissioners doing good work, I
Yeah,
guess.
you're doing his corner at his house, and you're picking up her 50 barrels?
Well,
What do I need in front of my house? Just kidding, just kidding.
This is a Headworks upgrade. We are, as you know, we're in the process of updating all of the Headworks. This is the second Headworks screen that we installed. It's, just to give you some sense, it's 53 feet tall, and it extends through 3 floors. So what these screens do is they remove the large debris from the incoming wastewater. So, and also we installed a new door and bricked that in. So it's a big project, but a very important one, because that's really the guts of the plant. Our HVAC upgrade is going well. We have, we're installing new ceilings, new lighting, and new units for the ladies' locker room. We are finally replacing our 21 on-site yard hydrants at wastewater. These hydrants are used primarily for the cleaning and maintenance of our tanks, so they're really important. So this is a project that we've wanted to do for a long time, finally getting done. Public Works Day, in conjunction with the skate park opening, we had Public Works Day on September 11th. It was a success. I think next year we may consider doing it later in the evening or on a Saturday, because I think it was a little bit of a tough time. I think a lot of people were working, but we still had some. There were some field hockey and other things going on, so we still did have some foot traffic that came through. But the departments, did an outstanding job putting together displays and educational information. So I think those of you that were there might agree to that. And this is my favorite slide. So Eastern Border donated a skateboard, and this little guy, Liam Ferris, won in the skateboard raffle. So he was very excited.
That's awesome.
So,
As he is.
it is as big as he is. Yeah. And that's it, unless there are any questions.
Questions, comments? Next item is commissioners' comments. Do any commissioners have comments, or Commissioner Bergeron?
Just quickly, I did attend Wheels and Wings, and it was an awesome event. People were having such a great time. There was a line to get into the place, so hats off to all the staff. It's a group effort, I know, to put those things on. But there was a huge line to get in there, and then they had the Salvation Army Apple Fest was the same day, and at one point they were concerned, the Apple Fest, that they wouldn't have as many people, and it worked the opposite, where everybody was happy, because we went from, with our niece, 9-year-old, and spoiled her on both events, and had a great time, so that was fantastic. And then just on another note, that I think the Main Street Sidewalk project honestly came out great. I'm downtown a lot, and yesterday, the mid-walks are done, and whether you like everything about it, not everybody likes everything about it, but I think the downtown is looking really good, and it's nice to have that project done. It's like now it felt complete, the trees are a little mature now, the flower beds look nice, and so we have invested a lot of money in downtown, but it's nice to see it done, because I think it looks really good. And when I came out at 9:30 in the morning, somebody was playing the piano, and she was fantastic on top of it, and I went, wow, this is a pretty nice city. So anyway, it's nice to have that project done. So that's it from me. Thanks.
Commissioner Ackerman?
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question for you, Director. A month or two ago, at one of our meetings, you were off looking at the fence along Temple Street. Still, I'm sure it's a big project to repair, clean up because of, I'll let you explain, but any more progress in that?
That's been, yes, that's been a very difficult project. There's a tremendous amount of conduit, and we weren't even sure where that conduit was. There's no as-built, so we've spent a lot of time investigating. It's going to be a very, very difficult project to build, and we're waiting right now for, I think we're negotiating, I think, with a couple of vendors, and we're waiting to get firm bids back now that we have more information about what we're dealing with. But it's we're going to get it in, but it's going to be very, very difficult to put the guardrail in. But yes, that is moving forward, so
Thank you.
hopefully this fall.
Right.
I'm hopeful.
One other thing, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
and maybe it's by design, but I had the pleasure of going kayaking in the river recently behind the mill yard, and it was a delightful experience. I happened to go underneath the bridge at bottom of Library Hill, and does the rainwater that comes out of the sewers on the bridge simply drain into the river by design, or is that not the case?
I don't know the answer.
And the reason I asked the question is, when I went underneath the bridge for the first time in my life, I happened to notice that there was some pipes that came down from below, and they look like they're supposed to connect, but at the very end, there's a gap. Maybe that's by design, I just was curious.
Yes, it is true. By design, those pipes were opened up and they separate, they're not combined sewage. They're separate drainage that runs through those pipes.
Okay, so it's by design
By
that the
design.
rainwater, I'm assuming it's simply rainwater, flows into the river.
Yes, I
Okay.
think it was more of an afterthought to discharge stormwater there, but it was done by design.
Very good, thank you.
Any other comments? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn for the evening?
All those in favor of the, I don't know if that has to be seconded or not, no. All those in favor of the motion say aye. The
Aye.
parliamentarian says no, so
I
All
always
those in
look at
favor of the
Commissioner
motion say
Moriarty.
aye.
I always second it, and it drives him crazy.
all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the meeting is adjourned at 6:47 PM.